Hey everyone, one more for the road. So, I was thinking about an analogy that if somebody's uneducated, like completely, and I'm just talking about like extreme circumstance, it would be like if they're going through life like Tarzan, right? So, if Tarzan were hypothetically um, imposed upon the world, imposed, wow, that sounds very like strenuous. Anyways, if he just happened to meander about into New York City, then he wouldn't have context for how culture is, how people are, etc., etc., etc. The reason I say that is because that's part of like education in a sense, but more like life. So the whole point's that education can be proactive or reactive. If hypothetically Tarzan would have just walked somewhere and tried to figure out his environment, tried to figure out everything, then he'd be learning and then he'd know what to do. So I say that because a lot of the times, people don't understand, and I'm talking about people in general, just how different regions of the world operate, how different people operate, how different cultures operate, and all that's depending on your exposure to things in life. You could do that reactively or you could do that proactively. The cool thing about modern life is that there's a lot of different ways for you to expose yourself to cultures without even having to travel. And I think that's fun because it not only makes life intriguing and you might just find something that you enjoy, but you know that, hey, this is normal over here, but that's not normal over there. Not even picking sides or anything like that or saying what's something's right or wrong. But the whole point is that the more you know, the easier it is for you to just navigate through life. It's kind of like your exposure to people. If you never were exposed to people, i.e., Tarzan, then you wouldn't know if um, something was right or wrong. I'll give you an example, actually, a really good example. So, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. The reason I say this is because as part of the culture, people kiss themselves. People give each other, like opposite sexes and sometimes same sexes, kisses on the cheek. So, I transferred freshman year of high school, and my dad worked for FEMA. He was always gone, emergencies and so on. So, anyways, the whole point's that at one point I had met somebody um, from ESL English class, and I did what I did in Puerto Rico. What I do, the Latina girls, they understood. So when I gave them a kiss on the cheek, no big deal. When I did that to the white girl, she almost slapped me, and I grabbed her and I was like, "What did I do wrong?" And I still remember Miss Millwood just storming after me like he didn't mean anything wrong by that. The whole point's that that was a culture thing. I didn't know. Talk about culture shock. So I'm very like, I say that because that's a really good example into like how something like that could be taken the wrong way. And in fact, something like that these days, people could end up like losing their minds. You know what I mean? Like think about how forward that is. That you want to kiss somebody on the cheek. People would just take that the wrong way. Like that's how crazy things can get by something so simple. And um, if your cultural range and what you've been exposed to and all that's there, then you would avoid that. So it's easy to get in trouble in life in so many circumstances that are normal for one person but not for the other. That's why I'm always trying to empower others or like I don't know, make suggestions about books or this or that. I mean, you can learn proactively, you can learn reactively. That example's small. Heaven forbid I do that example now. I couldn't, like, it was normal sometimes to do that in the past, but now I'm very careful. Like, if I was to, anyways, I'm extrapolating, or I'm getting sidetracked. The whole point is that it's not a bad thing to seek to, add range because you never know what kind of problems you're going to avoid just because, you chose to read this book or you chose to talk to that person or you chose to face your fears or you chose to, go to this place and travel or, I don't know, watch a movie. There's just so many ways that you can learn. And, one thing, it's fun. It's interesting. I mean, like, people have at their fingertips way more now than they ever had before. You know, so, given that it's easy, or easier anyways, I would actually say it's easy in a lot of instances to increase your cultural range. You know, even like learning. You know, it's a lot simpler than it was in the past. Easy actually. You know, I mean, there's libraries everywhere. There's books online. So much stuff is free. So do never overlook that because you never know what kind of circumstance it'll help you in. You know, this goes along the lines of the other video, but you know, in a completely separate direction. Also, one last note. One thing about learning proactively is like, there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with people. So if you happen to watch a video or see something you disagree with, or like if you know I'm wrong, hey, let me know. I'm not stubborn enough to not look at my arguments or like or what I have to say and you know, not come to terms with like the possibility that hey, I might have fucked up there. You know what I mean? So like, if I say something that doesn't make sense, let me know. It's okay. I'm very straightforward. I don't mind being told that. You know, there's something to be said for like exploring and learning and doing all that, and that's also proactive. So, you know, I'm not the type of person that will entrench themselves and, you know, just hold a position because that's not tenable. I mean, if it's right, like, you know, 2 + 2 is 4, that's one thing. But a lot of things in life are subjective, you know. Way more are subjective than objective. So just tossing it out there just in case. Hope you guys have a phenomenal day. Take care.